few weeks ago or few months ago at Sharm for Gaza summit. And we were sitting there at the lounge and waiting for President Trump to come and shake hands with him. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting. He was late. And then we came to know that he was at the Knesset. He had a speech there. And he said, I'm late. And because of that, all the rich country already left Sharm. So that was the first warning I received from that sentence. We are a rich country. I'm sure the minute I shake hands, he will give me the message. So I was thinking, what shall I do? What shall I do? And I was watching my colleagues when he arrived, of course. He came maybe 3 hours late. Before he traveled, he was marketing his watch, Trump watch. And I said, okay, I had an idea. As we are queuing to shake hands with Mr. Trump, I've noticed all the Gulf officials, he started the dialogue. And he took his time, and I was reading the faces of our colleagues there, how they were reacting to his remarks. Okay, good. Then my turn came. When I went there, I said, I started dialogue instead. I said, His Highness greetings and the Crown Prince greeting to you. But I should tell you one thing. I have one remark, Mr. President, if you allow me. He said, yes, of course, go ahead. Mr. President, try not to be late next time, otherwise no one will buy your watch. He stayed there second and he said, you got me this time. Then we finished the dialogue in a nice way. So I was the starting of that by reading the incidents, reading what's happening in the international world. I hope everybody will go to his common sense in solving our problems, especially in this area. What's going on in Iran and the negotiation going on now in Turkey, now it's been transferred to Oman. Hopefully, peaceful solution will be reached. Otherwise, if the war started, then we'll be going in the tunnel, and God knows what happens there. Let's hope for the best. We cannot live in a world that is not controlled properly. We don't have to establish new institutions for a shorter time, then we'll change it later on, because it's been followed for years and years for the world order. So if you allow me to start my speech in my proud Arabic language. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، نائب رئيس دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، رئيس مجلس وزراء حاكم دبي، أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسادة، السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدني ويشرفني أن أنقل إليكم تحيات حضرة صاحب السمو أمير البلاد الشيخ مشعل أحمد الجابر الصباح حفظه الله ورعاه، وتحيات سمو العهد الشيخ صباح خالد الحمد الصباح حفظه الله، مقرونة بأطيب تمنياته بنجاح أعمال القمة العالمية للحكومات 2026. كما يسرني أن أتقدم بخالص الشكر لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة الشقيقة قيادة وحكومة وشعبا على هذه الاستضافة الكريمة لقمة أصبحت اليوم منصة عالمية رائدة ومختبرا مفتوحا للأفكار وورشة حية لصناعة الحلول، وجسرا يربط بين طموحات الحكومات وتطلعات الشعوب. وأثمن ما حظيت به دولة الكويت من احتفاء مميزا خلال فترة 29/1 إلى 4/2 اللي احنا تاريخ اليوم، وما قدمته دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة الشقيقة من نموذج راق للعلاقات الإنسانية والثقافية بين الشعبين، بما يعكس قيم المودة ويجسد معاني التقارب والأخوة إخوة للأبد. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة، إن رسم ملامح حكومات المستقبل أمر مهم، لكنه لا يكتمل ما لم تكن هذه الملامح قابلة للتنفيذ. فالتحدي الحقيقي لا يكمن في صياغة الرؤى، بل في تحويلها إلى قرارات وترجمتها إلى سياسات وقياس أثرها في الحياة الشعوب. فحكومات المستقبل لا تقاس بما تعلنه من طموحات، بل بما تحققه من نتائج ملموسة في حياة المواطن اليومية. وقفت أمامكم على هذه المنصة قبل عام وتحدثت عن رؤية مستقبلية لوطن الكويت وتحديات الاقتصاد العالمي الجديد. واليوم أقف بينكم لأشارككم واقعاً صنعناه منذ لقائنا الأخير، واقعاً يؤكد أن التحول ممكن، وأن الوعود أصبحت إنجازات بالإرادة والعمل الجاد والتنفيذ الفعال، لأن حكومات المستقبل لا تبنى على الخطط. خلال العام الماضي اتخذت دولة الكويت خطوات إصلاحية جوهرية لتعزيز الاستقرار المالي وضمان استدامة المالية العامة، والبدء بإصلاح الاقتصاد الوطني وتنويعه وزيادة مساهمة القطاع الخاص، وفي مقدمتها إقرار قانون التمويل والسيولة كإطار تشريعي منظم لإدارة الالتزامات المالية والدين العام. ونحن على وشك إقرار أول تشريع ينظم طرح الصكوك الحكومية محلياً وعالمياً بالتوافق مع أحكام الشريعة الإسلامية، بما يمكننا من التعامل مع التحديات المالية بمرونة ومسؤولية، والتخطيط المالي متوسط وطويل الأجل. وقد انعكست هذه الإصلاحات مباشرة على ثقة المؤسسات الدولية، حيث رفعت وكالة S&P Global Ratings التصنيف الائتماني لدولة الكويت في نوفمبر 2025 من A+ إلى AA-، مع نظرة مستقبلية مستقرة في شهادة واضحة على سلامة النهج الحكومي في إدارة المالية والمضي في مسار الإصلاح. وترجمنا هذه الثقة إلى خطوات عملية من خلال العودة إلى أسواق الدين الدولية بإصدار تاريخي لسندات سيادية بقيمة 11.25 مليار دولار، والانضمام عضواً كاملاً إلى البنك الآسيوي للاستثمار في البنية التحتية، وتحقيق أعلى معدل إنفاق تنموي خلال ال5 سنوات الماضية. وفي هذا الإطار نؤكد أن التصنيفات والسندات أدوات لغاية أكبر تتمثل في بناء اقتصاد متنوع ومستدام يقوم على الشراكة الفاعلة مع القطاع الخاص. ومن هذا المنطلق نعمل على إنشاء منظومة متكاملة للنقل والخدمات اللوجستية تعيد موضع الكويت كمركز إقليمي يربط بين القارات. فتم توقيع عقد ميناء مبارك الكبير ليكون بوابتنا البحرية للتجارة العالمية، وافتتاح برج المراقبة الجديد والمدرج الثالث في مطار الكويت الدولي، واستكمال العمل في مبنى الركاب الجديد إن شاء الله سيفتتح 27. كما تم توقيع عقد الدراسة والتصميم لمشروع سكك الحديد، والتقدم في مشروع الربط الحديدي بين الكويت والرياض ضمن منظومة تعزز تكامل سلاسل الإمداد وحركة التجارة والركاب بين مجلس دول التعاون. ويشكل هذا التكامل بين البحر والجو والبر منظومة استراتيجية لنقل والخدمات اللوجستية لدعم تنويع الاقتصاد واستدامة النمو. وفي مؤازرة ذلك عملنا على ترسيخ بيئة اقتصادية مستقرة جاذبة انعكست في تدفقات استثمارية نوعية، من بينها افتتاح مكتب جولدمان ساكس في الكويت وحصول بلاك روك على ترخيص فتح فرع، إضافة إلى تعزيز الشراكات في قطاع الطاقة وتطوير البحث والتكنولوجيا ونقل المعرفة، حيث احتفلنا مؤخراً بمرور 10 سنوات على شراكتنا مع GE فيرنوفا وتأسيس مركزها التكنولوجي الإقليمي الذي يمثل منصة للنهوض بقدرات الكفاءات الوطنية وكذلك تدريب كوادر دول أخرى. وفي قطاع النفط والغاز أعلنا يوم أمس في كلمتنا التي ألقيناها في مؤتمر ومعرض الكويت للنفط والغاز كوغز عن فرص غير مسبوقة للاستعانة بالشركات العالمية، أولها مشروع شاهين بيرغرين لشبكة أنابيب تصدير النفط، والثانية مشروع السيف لتطوير الاكتشافات النفطية البحرية، ومع الإبقاء على ملكية والسيادة حصرياً للدولة. وهي رسائل تؤكد انفتاحا منضبطا وفق قوانيننا بمنهج واضح. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة، إن حكومة المستقبل لا تقاس بقوة اقتصادها فقط، بل بجودة خدماتها. ومن هذا المنطلق واصلنا مسار التحول الرقمي، حيث توسع تطبيق سهل ليشمل أكثر من 25 مليون معاملة، متوجاً إنجازاته بحصوله على جوائز محلية وعربية. وأطلقنا مبادرات رقمية متكاملة، ونقلنا البنية الرقمية لوزارة المالية إلى السحابة الإلكترونية. إن الحكومة الذكية تصل بالخدمة إلى المواطن قبل أن يطلبها. كما شهدت القطاعات الصحية والسكنية والتعليمية تطورات نوعية غير مسبوقة عبر مشاريع وإنجازات عملية تمس حياة الناس مباشرة، وتؤكد أن الاستثمار الحقيقي هو في الإنسان وجودة حياته. وعلى صعيد الحوكمة والانفتاح، أجرينا ما يزيد عن 50 تعديلاً على القوانين والمراسيم ضمن منظومة التعديلات التشريعية خلال العام الماضي. وأطلقنا منصة كويت فيزا، وحدثنا أنظمة الإقامة بالتوازي مع تطوير القطاع السياحي وتحسين جودة الحياة ضمن رؤية متكاملة تقوم على اقتصاد متنوع وحوكمة فعالة واستثمار في الإنسان وانفتاح متوازن على العالم. ما تحقق خلال العام واحد جاء بإرادة سياسية واضحة وقرارات جريئة وتنفيذ سريع. وخرجنا بثلاث دروس أساسية: الجرأة في اتخاذ القرار، السرعة في الإنجاز، والشراكة الحقيقية. ودولة الكويت التي عرفت مرارة الاحتلال وويلات الحروب تؤمن بأن السلام شرط للتنمية، وأكرر تؤمن بأن السلام شرط للتنمية، وستبقى صوتاً داعياً للحوار واحترام السيادة وبناء الجسور والعمل الإنساني بنهجها الدبلوماسي المتزن والقائم على الاعتدال والحكمة. المستقبل لا ينتظر المترددين، والكويت اتخذت قرارها بأن تصنع مستقبلها، وأن تقود التغيير، وأن تقدم تجربتها بشفافية، وتتعاون مع العالم لبناء تنمية مستقرة ومستدامة. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة، شكراً لحسن استماعكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أصحاب السمو والمعالي، أيها الحضور الكريم، الفصل القادم لأمريكا اللاتينية ماذا بعد؟ هو عنوان الجلسة الحوارية التالية. رحبوا معي بمتحدثي هذه الجلسة، يحاورهم دان ميرفي من قناة CNBC.
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, Ladies and Gentlemen, our next panel discussion is titled Latin America's Next Chapter, What Comes Next? This session is moderated by Dan Murphy from CNBC.
Your Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to this World Government Summit special event. I'm Dan Murphy from CNBC. Let's begin with the state of play inside the region today. Just weeks ago, the world watched as US Special Forces extracted Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. Today, he sits in a federal prison in Manhattan. President Trump calls this the Donroe Doctrine. It is a new policy asserting a new era of US primacy across the Western Hemisphere. For leaders across Latin America and the Caribbean, this raises some fundamental questions. How much strategic autonomy do countries in the region still have? What are the red lines on sovereignty? And how should governments respond when the United States acts unilaterally in their neighborhood? So I'm joined today by three sitting presidents who are navigating these questions while also growing trade and investment ties with the UAE and the wider Gulf. Your Excellencies, welcome to the World Government Summit, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
President Pedro, I'll begin with you. From Paraguay's perspective, what precedent did this intervention in Venezuela actually set for the rest of the region? And what is your reaction to the President's approach to the region today?
I think that for every country in Latin America, we are very proud about sovereignty and self-determination. Having the intervention of another country is not our first choice of action in terms of foreign policy. But in the case of Paraguay, we know and we learned the hard way. We have to endure a very long dictatorship, 35 years of a military regime that ended in 1989. And we learned that dictators, they don't live with pamphlets and manifestations on the street. They usually go with bullets and with a military intervention. So we tried, and I tried very hard since my inauguration as president in 2023 to restore democracy, see a restored democracy in Venezuela. We participated the Barbados Accord among many countries in Latin America to see a free election, which was not respected during the elections in 2024. So since then, we have been trying very, very hard to find a way out of the problem, because it's a real problem for all the countries. 6-7 million Venezuelans left Venezuela, and this is not for the good reasons, it was for the bad reasons. Many more were incarcerated without a judiciary process. So things were not going the right way in Venezuela. Now we're seeing a change. Hopefully this change is gonna put Venezuela back on track as a democratic country, and I hope that this is gonna happen very, very soon.
President Noboa, do you agree, and do you believe that the Donroe Doctrine has made Latin America safer or more dangerous?
Well, I do believe that it has made Latin America safer, or at least we're on the road to become a safer region. At the moment, we do have 30-35% of the region still vouching for what they call blind sovereignty. But at the same time, we have narco-terrorists in our region. We have Hamas, we have Hezbollah, we have armed groups operating and acting in the drug trade. So I think this is the last resort, and we're using it as a last resort. But we needed something like this. We needed a shock to really change the direction of where we were going.
So you welcome this shock, as you've called it?
Well, in a country where we fight every day for peace, where we fight every day against narco-terrorism, more than 50,000 armed men and women, and where we have also 600,000 Venezuelans living in our nation, I do believe it has done more good than bad.
President Abinader, the Monroe Doctrine was used once to justify U.S. intervention in the Dominican Republic. Are you reassured or alarmed by what has unfolded in the last few months?
First of all, let's speak about what was happening in Venezuela. Venezuela, we had relations until the elections. On the elections, you know that it was a complete stalled elections. There was no democracy. We have seen that now they are freeing a lot of political prisoners. So the situation was very special in Venezuela. We already had almost 200,000 Venezuelans in Dominican Republic that they were there because of political and economic problems. So this was a very special situation. And in our case, like it or not, we have a special relation with the United States economically, geographically. 2 million Dominicans live in the United States. They are the major source of our tourists that goes to Dominican Republic. That last year was more than 6 million Americans visiting Dominican Republic from 11.5 million of visitors. So we have that special situation. And we have always been personally, in our country, a fighter for democracy. So in this part, I think we are hoping that this goes to a transition to democracy in Venezuela, and that's, I think, is good for the whole region.
Are you not concerned, though, that given the way that the president has behaved and his own approach to Latin America and the Caribbean, that perhaps any other country in the region could be next?
I am not concerned because I think you have to have a cause, you have to have the reasons, and in Latin America, as Daniel, President Noboa was saying, it's emerging more and more democracies, and we have, for example, a very trustful and respectful relationship with United States. We don't like intervention. Nobody likes intervention, and to respect also the sovereignty, and they respect our sovereignty. We discuss. But we also need partners for the fight of crime, for the fight of narco-terrorism. We need partners. You cannot fight the narco trade alone in one country. You need a strong military force like United States. So we work very respectful, and we have done very well together, and we have a very fine relationship.
President Pena, can I have you react to that as well?
Sure. No, I think that what is important is what we understand for the Monroe Doctrine. This is a 200-year-old belief that the U.S. security is also affected by the environment of the U.S., and this is the Western Hemisphere. But if you go back to 1823, many of the countries in Latin America were still struggling to get independence. In the case of Paraguay, we were among the first ones to get independence in South America in 1811. So our situation was quite different back then to what is today. Today we see a partnership relation. We don't see a submission relation with the U.S. Paraguay is a strong partner with the U.S., and the same applies to Ecuador and Dominican Republic. But that doesn't mean, because we have a strong partnership, is that we have to put our own interests second to the interests of the U.S. No. We respect their interests, but we also have our interests. The good thing is we have mutual interests and things that we are both agreeing. One of them is that organized crime is probably one of the greatest threats for the Western Hemisphere. This is a great threat, and we need to work together. Our organized crime, which was fueled by many, many governments under this false ideology, the socialism of 21st century, that they were lowering the capacity of defense of the national governments, allowing organized crime to move, this weakened us. So now we need to change, and we understand that working together with the U.S., they have their own interests. They are putting pressure on the Caribbean, and for us, this is critical because we don't want organized crimes institutions to go further down. That's why we are also strengthening our military and defense capacity. So I'm not concerned about the Monroe Doctrine. Actually, I welcome the Monroe Doctrine, because it means they care about it. They care about the safety about the Western Hemisphere, and we need to work all together, and we need to do also our fair share.
President Noboa, you've also addressed this, but what we saw in Minneapolis is a case in point here. Of course, ICE agents attempting to enter the Ecuadorian consulate inside Minneapolis. In your view, sir, was that a breach of sovereignty, and did you ever get an apology from the United States?
No, we saw the videos. We saw it was an initial attempt. It didn't go through. And we had a letter of protest, and we talked, and we sorted it out. Like I said, we need to understand which of the interests align and which don't. And something that's not negotiable is our own principles. But on the other hand, we need to understand that the U.S. is our main trade partner, and that we have over 500,000 Ecuadorian immigrants in the United States, the great majority, hardworking people that just want to have a good life and want peace.
Not to be petty, but do you want an apology?
Well, they gave us an explanation. They gave us, it was shown that they didn't cross, the final line, you would say. So we protested. They gave us an answer and an explanation, and that's it.
So that's the state of play inside the region today, with a perspective from each president. Let's shift focus to what's happening inside the UAE, because there is, of course, a reason that each of you are here at the World Government Summit, and I wanted to unpack that as well. President Pena, you've been working with UAE companies to build infrastructure in Paraguay in particular. Tell us about your ambition to build on your trade and investment ties, not just with the UAE, but also with the Gulf.
11 years ago, I started to come to the region. I was Minister of Finance of Paraguay. So I was trying first to understand what was happening in the region, UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. And I was amazed. I was amazed not because of the amount of resources, but about the wisdom, the vision of the leadership. So at that time, we negotiate an investment agreement, elimination of double taxations. And when I won the election in April of 2023, the first country that I visited, even before sworn in, was the UAE. So I came here and I said that despite that we are separate, very far away, and we might not have similar languages or cultural ties, but the vision that we have going forward is very, very similar. So over the last 2.5 years, I have been coming regularly to UAE, and we had been able to reach very important agreements on investment in railroads, airports, energy. Paraguay is a large producer of clean, renewable energy, and of course, this is being used as a magnet to bring companies on the technology sector, and of course, the UAE is leading in this effort and in this initiative. So I think that there is a great amount of opportunities. I think they are limitless, the things that we could do. And what we have offered, and during this semester, Paraguay is under the presidency of Mercosur, which is now also, thanks to Trump, moving ahead on many areas with free trade agreement. We just closed one with the European Union. We are now in the process of doing a free trade agreement with the UAE and Mercosur. We think that we need to bring together these two regions, the Gulf, and I think UAE can play a major role in leading this region, and also South America and Mercosur, and Paraguay, with a lot of humility, wants to be the entry gate, a country that's going to welcome foreigners from other regions and to do business in the entire continent.
President Noboa, to you on this as well. Of course, we have also just seen the signing of a brand new economic partnership agreement with the UAE. This is very important. You're also opening a trade office this week as well. Does having a strong friend in the Gulf make you less dependent, if you will, on the mood in Washington?
I mean, we have a diversified group of trading partners. We trade a lot in Asia. Our second largest trade partner is China, and our third largest trade partner as an independent country would be Russia. The European Union altogether would go up to second place if it's all together. I believe that Ecuador is very compatible with the Gulf, that we could work together. We are a net exporter of food. We produce 9 times the amount of food that we can consume. We have fresh water sources. At the same time, we bottle water and several drinks. So in terms of compatibility, we are a great partner for the UAE and for the entire Gulf. At the same time, we are in a process of growth and renovation. The country is improving technologically. The country is improving also in terms of energy. So we're going to need the know-how for refining, for waste management, also for energy management. Ecuador is growing at around 4% every year, but I believe if we work together with the Gulf and with trading partners like the UAE, we could grow above 5% in the next few years.
And really unlocking the ambition and the opportunity in this part of the world. We were just talking backstage about how it's hard to find what we have here in the UAE anywhere else in the world at this point, given what's happening on the ground here, the investment opportunities opening up and the doors that are opening for countries around the world in this country as well. President Abinader, over to you on this, because you were also on stage talking about your partnership with DP World earlier in the week as well, which has helped to turn your country into a massive trading hub, that long-standing relationship. How do you expand on that relationship and continue to build out that opportunity across the public and the private sector?
We are a very diversified economy, and one of the part that is growing is the free zones, and also especially in our government, since I started in 2020. One of the special sectors that we want to develop is also the logistic hubs. So we already have Dubai port that is not just the main port in the Dominican Republic, it's the main port of the region, and it has been a very successful story. And you can see what Mr. Sultan said. So it has been an excellent relationship, a public-private agreements that now and during my government, it is not just the port or the logistic. Now they enter into the free zones. What better free zone you can have next to the port? And they also went into free zones in the airport of Punta Cana, also that it has a special conditions. So we already have this special relation. This, between last year and this year, just Dubai Port is investing, expanding the ports and the free zones, $760 million. And I hope also other companies will see that from the UAE, will see that a case of success to enter into all the diversified areas that we have. At the same time, we are working into an agreement with UAE with all the vanguard technology that they have, especially on the digital government, that it makes more competent and specialized and efficient government. We are working on a protocol so we can have a G2G agreement and implement all these cases, successful cases that it has done here on UAE in the Dominican Republic. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for the private sector, but also between our governments, that we can do a lot to assure and have a better quality for our people.
And the President also just mentioned that unlocking this opportunity will drive growth. What does the growth number look like for the Dominican Republic if all goes well?
Well, we have predicted 4% also for this year. We have been growing at approximately 4.5% for the last 30 years. And we have established in our government what is seen as a Project 2036, which is to double the economy for 2036. We are now a middle-income country, which we were a low-income country 20 years ago. And we are developing, as I said, and I think one of the reasons is our diversified economy in tourism, in free zones, in also part of agriculture, in logistic hubs. We are even growing a lot in medical tourism for all the region. So we have, as I said, we are growing every niche. In the free zones, we now have also a special a project to assemble semiconductors in the country. We already are preparing our people in the technical part. Also, we established a master for semiconductor, assembly of semiconductor in one of our universities. We are exporting $3 billion in medical devices from our free zone. So it's not just the old manufacture of clothes, so we are going more into technology. At the same time, about $800 million exporting electrical equipment. And I think that in that path, there are a lot of opportunities for enterprises with the UAE that can grow. And last year, we have a record of $5 billion in foreign investment, the biggest of the region, and a record for DR, which it says that there is confidence in the country, also for the internal market and also for export. And one of the good things is that the company that has invested in the Dominican Republic invest 68% of their profit in new investment in the DR. So that it says how confident and how well they have been doing in the last few years.
I also wanted to shift focus just briefly and talk about something that President Pena and I were also discussing in Davos, Switzerland, only a couple of weeks ago, and that is President Trump's new Board of Peace. Of course, the foreign policy agenda in the United States right now isn't just peace, it's also prosperity, and trade and investment is directly correlated to that. President Trump proposed this Board of Peace as an alternative to traditional security alliances. Paraguay has joined, but Ecuador and the Dominican Republic, as I understand it, were not invited or declined to join. So can I just get some clarity on that? First of all, President Pena, you did sign that piece of paper. You were there in Switzerland. What's the strategic advantage for Paraguay?
Paraguay has been very critical. We truly believe in multilateralism, but we also think that the system that was designed after World War II, 80 years ago, is outdated. It's outdated and doesn't reflect the weight of different countries, the participation, and of course at the top of this pyramid is the United Nations, right? It's a large organization, and I have been very, very critical about the UN capacity to solve problems. Every year we go to the UN General Assembly and we are just adding one more conflict to the table, and we are not taking any other conflict. So I take President Trump's initiative. I think it was a good effort. Previous to that, I also participated in the signing of the peace for Gaza in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Paraguay has been a long-standing defendant on the Israeli position of self-defense and trying to build a long-lasting peace for the region. So this participation also brought Paraguay into the table on the Board of Peace. So hopefully we're going to find a way. I think this year is going to be also a great opportunity because the countries are going to be choosing a new Secretary General for the United Nations. And the Western Hemisphere, our region, will play a leading role. This is a position that rotates by region and is coming back to the Western Hemisphere after 40 years. So I think all of these puts in the right track for countries that wants to do the good. I mean, for us, we want peace, we want countries to work, and we need to strengthen the multilateral system. We don't like a world without multilateral system. We need a system that is benefiting all countries, not only the large countries. We need also a more important role for middle powers. I think the three countries that we are representing here, we can identify as middle powers, countries that we are no longer poor countries. We are very rich countries, and we don't have the problems of the very large countries in terms of population and complexities. So we can play a pivot role in bringing solutions to the table.
President Noboa, I think you have a different view on this. You've heard the case for. Why is Ecuador against?
We're not necessarily against. We're not part of it. That doesn't mean that we're against. We've been fighting an internal war for 2 years, war against narco-terrorism, and we fight every day. We need the help of the world. 40% of the cocaine that's being exported out of Ecuador goes to Europe, another 40% goes to the US, and 20% to the rest of the world. So it's not a war because of local consumption, it's a war based on external consumption. We're also not cocaine producers. It's been smuggled through the borders from Colombia and from Peru. So we're fighting a war. We are fighting a war against evil and against narcos and illegal mining. And we do believe that the strength of multilateralism will help us achieve our goal, which is to win this war.
So you see a pathway to joining the Board of Peace at some point in the future?
I know it's not our top priority right now. Top priority right now is to fight the war, to win the war that we're living in right now, and to give peace to our 18 million citizens that we have in Ecuador.
Mr. President, same question to you.
Yes, we were not agree or disagree. We just not participated, but we have, as never before, an excellent relationship for security with the United States. We are working. We are the main country in the Caribbean fighting narco traffickers and all other sorts of criminal activities. They said that they have never before had the government that has cooperated so well in security. I think that's in favor of us and in favor of them. So we have this special bilateral relationship. We also believe in multilateralism, and I think what everybody wants is that the United Nations continues with reform, which is normally that to be more effective, which normally happens with long-term organizations, that it needs to reform. So that is our idea, but as I said, we have a special relationship with the United States, but not just with the United States. We signed a special cooperation of security with France for the Caribbean. So everybody who is wants to fight criminal activities and narco-terrorism, as President Noboa says, and the activities is going to count with Dominican Republic. We have been so successful that we are the second most safest country in terms of murder homicides per 100,000 people, after El Salvador, which has I think 2 or 3. We have the lowest, which is 8. It's high for some countries, but this for the region is one of the lowest. And that is because of the cooperation, part of the cooperation that we are doing with the United States.
I wish we had more time, but we'll have to leave it there. Your Excellencies, on behalf of all of us, welcome again to the UAE. Thank you for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in.
Thank you. Thank you.
أصحاب السمو والمعالي، الحضور الكريم، الجلسة التالية حوار مع معالي كاليكستو أورتيغا سانشيز، نائب الرئيس للشؤون الاقتصادية في فنزويلا. يحاوره تاكر كارلسون، مؤسس The Tucker Carlson Network.
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, Ladies and Gentlemen, our next session is a conversation with His Excellency Calixto Ortega Sanchez, Vice President for the Economy of Venezuela. This session is moderated by Tucker Carlson, founder of the Tucker Carlson Network.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So how's your year been? how my year has been.
Just kidding.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know that. Thank you so much for doing this. I was trying to picture your New Year's Day. You know, you sort of envision the year ahead, and I bet you didn't call this one on New Year's Day. So you are now in charge of the Venezuelan economy. I should say, for those who don't know your bio, you were head of the country's central bank at 34 and weathered hyperinflation and a lot of other twists and turns. So I think it sounds like you're the man for the job. But let's just start on January 3rd, the day that all of this began. Where were you that day, and what was your experience of it?
Well, I was in Caracas. I'm coming from a Catholic family, and those days are very important for us, for family reunion. So I had in my house my mother, my father, my sister, my nieces, of course my little kids. And it was an event that, you know, is at a dark point in our history now, but we try to move forward and somehow build opportunities for economy under the situation we have to face.
Did you know what was happening that day?
Well, you know, I woke up in the middle of the night and the events were passing very fast, and just following the news and the statements of the authorities. And you know, it was a very extraordinary situation, but the Venezuelan people and the authorities have shown that they are ready peacefully to move forward and to build opportunities for our people and for the welfare of the Venezuelan people.
So now you're in charge, as noted, of the Venezuelan economy, quite a portfolio at this point. The defining fact, I think, of the economy for more than a decade has been U.S. sanctions, which were very strict. And they were levied with the idea they would destabilize the regime. Obviously, they didn't. It took Delta Force and directed energy weapons to take out the regime. So they didn't actually affect political change, but they did constrain, they defined your economy. Are they, I'm a little bit confused, are they American sanctions still in place?
Well, so due to my former responsibility as a central bank head, I had the opportunity to see and to you know, to be in the front line on while all this was happening. I'm talking about restrictions, sanctions, accusations, the lack of access to your own resources. In 2018, when I started at the central bank, we have hyperinflation, we have scarcity levels that probably that was something that everybody read in the news. But the story that is not being shown in the news is like we defeat hyperinflation. We had now we have scarcity levels the lowest. We have like a regular normal economy right now. And just to give you an example, in 24, when the sanctions were eased, there were some, you know, how do you call it, OFAC licenses to do to leave the economy functioning like a normal country. We have readings in inflation and, for example, inflation and exchange rate in 2024 show the best reads in 40 years, since the mid-80s. I'm talking about a time where in the mid-80s Venezuela have access to her international reserve, international markets, everything. But in 24, without access to anything, just to, you know, just to have able the private sector to function like a regular country, we have the lowest inflation in 40 years, and the exchange rate was very stable. So as of today, sanctions are, we have there are some general licenses that are allowing now private sector to invest in Venezuela, to trade with oil and gas. And Venezuela is ready to receive investment now. One of the first decisions that interim President Delcy Rodriguez took was to go to the National Assembly and ask for a